a group on that. This, we seem to be happier. Did you know that?
We're happy, we seem to be
I think
happy.
you don't have to look at it. We can look over
We're
here.
muted now.
You know.
Doesn't mean it's too much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now,
Are we ready?
Are we live, Ally? I studied. Ally, are we live?
You have logged into YouTube.
Reminder of that.
Hey, Carrie, tell some very good pictures. I haven't been there.
There you go.
It's awesome.
That was
Is it really?
Did you hear the IDA? I really liked it.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's good.
Five Mondays, somebody.
Can I get the word out? Yeah, I did. How about the? Just the one with Crystal Floyd, she opens screen late.
Yes. We got sales and mortgage tax. We did not. I read that.
You know, all right, still means.
Good start.
Pretty good. Time to get to work here tonight.
I'll buy midnight.
I would like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is for Ellie to please do a roll call, so we can confirm that we got a quorum.
Mary Pig. Here. Nick Caimano.
Yes. Here.
Juan Gonzalez.
Here.
Brian Campbell.
Here.
Tim Robinson.
Here.
Mark Smith.
Here.
Nick Bryan.
Here,
We have a quorum.
okay. I think it's nice to see a former and a new member here tonight.
Well, we do things good in Warren County.
Yeah? That's a matter of opinion. Ask Ben Driscoll how he liked our board meeting last Friday.
Did he come to it?
Yes?
Did he get what he wanted?
Hey, hello. What do you want? He wanted to say hello. He wanted to see how real people do the job.
Who was that? Who was that?
Ben Driscoll. So we have a quorum.
Hold on, can I just make note for the record, Dan Bruno is also here. I'm sorry I missed you.
Figured you just.
Sorry, we have 8 out of 10. We have a quorum.
She didn't go to work today either.
So I would like to introduce Mark Smith. Mark Smith from Johnsburg, I believe it is. If anyone knows where Johnsburg is.
Can't find it on that. We used to play ball there back in the day.
Like to introduce him and welcome him to the board, and we hope he comes back after this meeting.
Only got a choice.
You always have a choice. You may not like the consequences, but you always have a choice. So-
Until we got in the army.
First order of business is approval of minutes of May 17th, 2023 IDA board meeting. I need a motion to accept it.
I just have a question on that. Is
Well,
the-
Get a motion to
Floor
second
first.
first.
Can I have a question first?
No.
No, I need to motion to second. Ben
Robert
discussion.
Schultz.
I'll make that motion.
Second by, moved by Nick, second by Brian. Now, any questions, omissions,
Yeah.
corrections?
9,600 from, is it is that per month or per year from? CHP for the additional lease of 6 acres. It just says payment of 9,600.
Additional acres is actually 6 acres times 1,600. Yes,
Okay, so the 9,600 that you see, that was the first month that they paid us for the additional 6 acres. And from now on, moving forward, the two payments are combined, so you'll see a payment of 22,400, which is both of them combined.
Per month. That was my only question.
any omissions or corrections to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Next item of business is treasurer. And
Yeah.
Jenny, welcome.
Let's start with the accounts payable.
Okay, go ahead.
Anybody have any questions? The only one of them is reimbursable, that's Lobella, 32,000. That check's already been cut. It needs to get paid so we can get reimbursed. Any questions? Try to-
We have to pay him so we can pay us.
Pay them, yeah, so that we can get reimbursed on the grant. On the income statement, if nobody has any questions there, we took some non-operating revenue from Pacific Development Corporation, the funds we have over there, to build our coffers a little bit for the IDA. The operating revenue was actually 221, with expenses of 251. Canal side made up 85,000 of that. And it's running at a positive. It's more project fee income. Any questions on that? If not, then I'll go to the balance sheet. The only questions I brought up were the accounts receivable. There's a $26,000 new AR on there. It's an outside reimbursable grant of 20, or part of our reimbursable grant, 26,532. Then another question I had was we had an increase in accounts receivable. In general, accounts receivable about 36,000 and change. That is some new billings in May, 32,000 to CHPD. The Prospect Mountain 1,500 and our electric of 2,700. They haven't had time to pay their bills yet. We just billed them today. And then we're owed from WCC 12,000 and CBE Solar. Everybody will be pleased to know we got paid on that one. Even though the project went away. So we got our money recently.
We should do that more often.
But it's on here. It's a March as a receivable at the end of May.
Let's figure out how we do that.
Anybody has any questions on the balance sheet?
First I need is a motion to accept the approve the accounts payable for payment. By Juan, do I have a second? Second by Dan. Any further discussion? This is a roll call vote.
Mary King,
Yes.
Jeannie Sullivan,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Tim Robinson,
Yes.
Mark Smith,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. You might want to explain that to Mark, why we do that. And why we. Because it's finance. You know it, right? Okay, that's all I want to make sure.
He's not a newbie to the rule.
You never know.
So I would like to explain, I don't know how much you know, is that with the development of the Canalside Energy Park, we got a grant from NBRC for $600,000 to do scoping work, preliminary design, detailed design, up to 90%. So that's where we find a lot of the reimbursables coming from. We have that build, and we can bill that, we can pay it so we get a check back, so we can send it to NBRC for reimbursement. Reimbursement comes generally in 4 weeks. Pretty fast response time for some agencies. Some we do it out there. Next step is that we have a member items grant from congressional items courtesy of Senator Schumer. That will be part of the next phase. We are also looking at applying for what's called a Fast New York grant. Fast New York grant will be up to $4 million, maybe more. And that will be both the members items and the Fast New York will be used for construction of the site for the sewer and the water and any of the improvements we can do under that. So that's what we're looking for. So this may.
Fast and acronym, or is that fast Eddie in charge?
I will tell you that FAST is not the application. The application, according to Beth, is one of the worst things that we've ever done. That's Beth Gillis from the Lake Champlain Regional Planning Board, who did who wrote our grant for MBRC for congressional member items and for Canalside. And so thankfully have her. She's extremely good in writing grants and obtaining progress, but she said fast New York is more difficult than they thought, so anyhow, that's it. Well, that information. And then also what NPRC grant gives us is the estimates, what it's gonna cost for sewer, for water, and for anything else we do in there. And by the way, Ginny Sullivan, meet Mark Smith. Mark Smith from Johnsburg. Just want to make sure that everyone knew each other. Any other questions on financial statements?
Yes, you said something about $45,000. I don't see a $45,000. No, you said that on receivables,
So, yeah, you can,
you subtracted something.
yeah, you're not gonna, I came up with it.
Okay, that's all.
Of what this, there's a 40-some odd thousand dollar increase.
Okay.
36,000 change increase, and the increase is what I went
I
over.
just thought I was reading something wrong.
Thank you. Sure.
Any other questions of the balance sheet of profit and loss? I'll entertain a motion to accept these as delivered. Nick, do I have a second? Second by Dan. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Not spending any money.
Oh, okay.
We already spent it. Okay. Next item is year-to-date reports of committees. Mr. Bruno, would you do please canal side and master plan update?
Met with our consultant, Labella, on June 7th, or Wednesday, 2 weeks ago, to review the progress of all the items. The quarter assessment is complete, that has to be done. Canal side or Canal Corporation to authorize us to, so that's one of the things, to authorize us to utilize part of the Canal Corporation lands and also the rest of the road up to the tying point. Cultural resource, there's a number of items that need to be done: cultural resource investigation, aquatic resources, geotechnical, and field investigation. So cultural resources is going on this week. Out there doing that field work. Aquatic resources, you need the alignment of the sewer shown on the wetland map, so that'll get done. The geotech services, that's where they drilled to check to see what's down there subsurface. That's ongoing. It should be completed this week. The field investigation survey is complete, with the exception of some miscellaneous stuff. The quarter assessment, as I said, that's complete. Sewer flow monitoring is ongoing, and that is actually behind schedule. But at our meeting last week, we, Mr. O'Brien, myself, Bob Holmes, who we've hired to assist us in monitoring our consultant, try to impress upon them they're behind on a number of things, and this all affects the grant that Mr. O'Brien was talking about, the NBRC grant. We need to have all of this work in this these tasks that we hired Isabella to do by mid-September.
Mid-September.
Otherwise, we jeopardize that grant. So anyway,
They assure you they would?
sure, they've assured us. Last fall.
They're engineers, right?
So let's say on this form, coming behind this is construction phase. Pictures, everything else like that. And if they're not meeting their dates for this, we'll have to evaluate what we're going to do with the next phase. Now, for those who don't know, to be fair or unfair, Chazon was sold to the Bears about a year ago, and they did lose the key person who was in charge of this project, put everything askew. It's my understanding they've had some turnover in personnel there. So still doesn't make an excuse.
The person they lost, who was the project manager assigned to this project, I've known him for quite a while, was a good man, and I don't think they would be in the situation right now if he hadn't left, but he had a good deal. The new project manager, very blunt, just he's not cut from the same cloth. Your point, Mr. Campbell, a lot of engineers not make good managers. I mean, I say that being an engineer, I really know that. So, but anyway, it's almost neither here nor there. We just need to keep up the pressure on them, monitor them to get these things done so that we can move from design phase to construction. Get these services that
Why did the good guy leave?
I'll tell you, as I said, Chazen was consumed by Labella. And I know exactly what this is for. He didn't want to be part of a larger conglomerate, if you will. So he had an opportunity to go somewhere where he probably will be, may own the firm, smaller firm involved. It was a good opportunity for him, so unfortunately.
Wasn't because of the ownership of this that's knocked about.
What's that?
Well, I just want to know why he left. I hope there
Right.
wasn't a problem there.
Problem with,
No, the problem,
The whole project.
problem was a personal problem.
Okay.
Personal problem was that he was expected to move into higher roles at Chazen.
Well,
And when they were acquired, that opportunity got diluted. And he made the best decision for himself in his career, what he wanted to do, so, and his family.
now we gotta hope for the best.
well, more than hope, we need to,
Are you confident though they have the people there to do it and move it along?
they have the people there. Part of the problem is because they're larger organizations, they take these people from time to time and use them here, use them there. So we just need to impress upon them that, hey, we were here, you signed a contract, you need to get this work done, you're jeopardizing some funding, very important funding for us. So, and again, we monitor them.
So is this a weekly call we should have or daily?
That-
Is it a weekly
No,
call or daily? What,
No, right
how
now,
far should we be pushing?
right now, we're doing these bi-weekly, every other week. There's one tomorrow. And,
So you'll know if they're catching up or getting further behind.
yeah, they also print this canal side schedule tracker. Pass it around if anyone wants to look at it. Probably don't, but the items in red here are generally behind schedule. Okay,
That doesn't look good.
so we, in looking at this, monitor those along with our consultant, Mr. Holmes, formerly Jarrett, thank you. Jarrett Engineering, same entity, just changed the name because we've been dealing with Jarrett for a long time. But so tomorrow, we will review. One of the things we'll do is go over this in detail and say, hey, what about these items here that appear to be behind? And what's the prognosis? When are you gonna make these up? When are they gonna be completed? And yeah, if need be, we'll start monitoring this more often. But we're not
You
quite,
haven't got room to let them get further behind, that's for sure.
certainly not.
Well, I understand that the slop off is, the more time you have meetings with them, less time they're spending on the work.
Well,
There's gotta be balance,
there's meetings and then there's walking over there with coffee and donuts and saying, how's things going? And they leave. And it's just, they understand that. You don't have to stand there.
Why do you want to give them coffee and donuts?
So that's a good point.
So then go get 'em.
Always good at that, but
No, they're not. It's a good question.
Well, I think
They're
you're
not
right.
critical path.
Meetings will slow down, but you don't have to have meetings. just come by, or ask one of us to come by.
Or we just call them. You walk in there, you tend to slow things down.
Well, that's true.
So a phone call and, as I said,
Good.
this is part of the reason we engaged Bob Holmes, Jared Engineering, is to monitor this and push things along. You know, and also assess these things. Are they really necessary? Is they doing what they should, that kind of thing. So, see if there's anything else to add. I mean, there's other things here, but I don't want to necessarily bore you with any details. I'm not keeping anything back from you, but again, from my point of view, the major thing is to get this stuff done on time so that we don't jeopardize that NDRC grant. Do you agree?
We're every 2 weeks and there's constant phone calls and emails. I had people on site yesterday doing the archaeological dig, so they're plugging away, but they sort of a late start, so now they're trying to catch up. Pressure's on, they know it.
As long as they're aware and making it happen, that's.
They're very aware, very aware.
More importantly, since the time that a month ago, we had a meeting and I sort of unloaded on them. Their corporate engineering guy was on the phone. He heard it. And so he's been monitoring the situation. I didn't realize Chris Brown is not in engineering, he's a planner.
What's that?
Chris Brown, who's the office here, I guess office manager here, is not in engineering, he's a planner.
Uh,
There's a difference.
If we lose money, they should lose money.
So sewer flow metering is very important. We need to know what that is. They need to know, so they can base their design on that and what we're going to introduce to that system. That'll be complete pretty quick. And we need these, we call a basis of design report for water, sewer. And that's just what it connotes. It's the basis, it's all the parameters you use to design a system. So they'll furnish those and you'll look at them and say, yay or nay. And the water system, I'm not convinced that we need to do much at all with that, because with the construction of that site back in 2008, or whatever it was, there was a new water line brought to the site. It's an 8-inch line. I personally, because of my experience, see no reason to monkey with that, if you will. But except that, you need to test the flow, and that's make sure you've got adequate flow. So I'm okay with that, but beyond that, I don't know that we want to spend the money.
So I had a long talk with Thursday, Friday last week. What she would prefer us to do is to go ahead with the water study and design. She would like to include in that the water tank. Her point is that we have room to get the money authorized through the Fast New York design
For the water.
for the water tank and for any other improvements.
Right.
We should discuss this a little while longer. We should, in this plan, how do I want to say this? To move the, what we call the valve is. The valve needs to go,
Backflow preventer,
backflow preventer needs to move from where it is,
RPC.
because that property comes right into the site. And where it is now, we don't have the width to get an exit out there. Now, if such time as the road on Rockgate Way or the bridge needs construction, we need an alternate way out for trucks. Now, we do have potential of using through the East Street, which is the little road that's up by East Street Bridge. and get up and through there, but we have curiosity whether or not heavy trucks would be able to go through there. And an alternate resource would be good to use that, the alternate resource, alternate entrance exit to use that for heavy trucks and leave that road up there on Canal Corp property for exit for POVs. Now, E Street is a smaller street, especially narrows down right at Baldwin Avenue. So you'll have to see it to visualize it. And the turn in there, you can't turn left going out, and you can't turn right coming in. You have to come up East Street and go down there, and you have to picture and see it because it's a curve and was done that way. So there is a way to do that, but we're curious whether or not some of the biggest trucks with low boys on can get through there. So we need an alternate entrance and exit for in case that. So that's what we're going to talk about later. So that needs to be relocated because only a 38-foot span at the end of this property, then it widens out and goes there. Another alternative is to buy the house that's there, but it may be a little, at this point in their development cycle, maybe a little bit too expensive to go through buying that piece of property, knocking the house down, so we have an alternative exit. So just
Backing up to the water system, if we include this water tank, basically a surge tank, we have a large volume of water to serve your needs at some peak flow that you might not be able to get just from the line. But if we include that, and it comes to pass, we don't need it, we can use that money elsewhere. That's why she, right?
I would never say that in public.
Well, this isn't public, or is it? Whatever.
But yes, that's your principle, because
Well, I just want to understand what
because it should also may come to need for fire protection. Fire protection, that's your other thought.
maybe not, but you see, my point is, having designed these systems before, you don't know until you have a tenant, you don't know what your demand is, so why would you spend the money for either one of these? But that's why I mentioned what the rationale is, so it doesn't seem stupid.
So you give the engineer's rationale, I give the my person's rationale.
Fair enough. So, that's it in a nutshell, unless anybody has any questions or anybody has anything.
No, the only thing I'll add to it is to your point on the water, we already have a water supply. The question is, will it be adequate for the future? We don't know the answers to that, but we're doing the engineering in case someone knocks on our door and needs more water. More importantly, there's the sewer. We don't have sewer. And every time we have someone express interest, the main reason they go away is because there's no
So
sewer.
that's a good point.
So that's really our main point right now.
Right, the purpose of all this, I hope you all understand, is this, say this, the Bella and design and everything, is to provide sanitary sewer service, good capacity, and water, and eventually natural gas, so that people considering this site, you know, those utilities are there, because people come along and they look at it and then they ask those questions, and now we don't have any. Oh, okay, see ya. So that's the crux of this whole exercise and expenditure.
The whole message has been no sewer, no deal, no sewer, no deal. You know, interesting site, Mark, you gotta get, whoever's not been down there to see it, really needs to get down there and see it.
I know no sewer, no site all too well.
Water, we do have water, but is enough water? Well, we'll see.
So I was there this afternoon. Place looks great, except I went. How much is Kiewit? What did we, I'm not clear on what they're leasing from us. They got stuff all over the place.
So the newest space is at 6 acres where you see all the supplies. And then you have the reels.
Yeah.
And then you have the space where the trailers are. So there's 3 locations right now.
Right, and those are all under lease.
Correct.
Those are 14 acres, right?
And our other tenant has the building
Just a small building.
and the adjacent area. They've got a bunch of poles laid down there, a truck.
they're on a month lease, so we can kick them out in 60 days.
I'm not saying, I just was curious what they're,
No, I'm just saying we could.
And we have a third tenant, that's Summit Trail.
yeah.
Benefit of our new board.
And while we're on that, just briefly, I don't wanna waste anybody's time, but the trailer is over where, it's not where he would offer them. You're aware of that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There's a long story.
Okay. We don't have time. All right,
Be happy to go into it, but it's,
well,
As long as it's working.
we're okay. We're working out some details. Everything right now is under control.
So the second phase of this, there were some items we had not authorized for phase B for Labella. I'm talking with, looking at our schedules, we should be getting into those pretty soon. We should authorize those because if we wait till the next board meeting, wait for a certain point, it may not be time enough for them to authorize and plan their schedules. So I think that we sent out the phase two authorization for that. And I'd like to get that approved by the board.
Those are good ideas, all right?
You want to put it farther behind schedule?
Well, no, we might switch horses if they can't keep up. That's my question. Why would we?
that will put us in.
Yeah, we're 70% down the road.
It's tied
The
tightly
issue
to this, so.
sorry, if we don't do this, then we might put ourselves further behind. A specific amount in the Labella proposal, it's already been reviewed with the board. The board approved the first phase. This is phase two, or approved B. The specific amount is $170,000, $170,800. So it's all within the total 600 that we expect. Right. So we're just looking, and we purposely left that as Group B because we weren't sure what Group B was going to look like. Now that we're getting through Group A, the project is crystallizing. Now we know what Labella should work with. That makes sense.
Motion by Juan, do I have a second? Second by Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor? Next is gate replacement. Gate replacement, when we agreed with Canal Corp to allow access for POVs to that East Street, they asked us to put in a gate down there so that they couldn't go past the turn off into the Canal Corp property and get into the wharf area. And I agree with it, and we came up with a sticker shock on it. So it's becoming more and more clear, we do have to proceed with that. We have put it on RFP to say, at this point, they said, can you relocate the gate from where it is down probably, what, 100 feet?
Yeah, plus or minus.
Again, so use existing gate, because once we put a gate up there, we don't need the other gate. So we have gone out RFP. We are getting some time constraints on that. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we should. If you have the numbers on, explain the whole thing.
So we have an RFQ that went out back at the end of May or end of March. We had 4 companies. One responded. It was $19,100. That is just for 100 feet of fence. It's extensive because of prevailing wages, dust materials, and a sliding gate. We are now issuing another RFP to look at the relocation of the existing fence. We're hoping the cost will come in less. So the purchase, we believe, is the most expensive option, the $19,100. I think, Mr. Chairman, you're looking for approval up to that amount, pending the receipt of the bids on the plan that might be less expensive. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Canal Corp requirement.
What's that?
Canal Corp
Oh,
requirement.
Doesn't matter, Canal Corp, we have to do
Yeah,
that
that's
wage also, not our choice.
Is this on court property?
Yes, because they're doing it, the movement is for our needs.
They don't have to relocate.
They don't have to relocate.
No,
That's dormant property right now, Pier 8 out there, it's dormant. They want to make sure there's no access for bad activity going down there. So we're looking to relocate the fencing, so we have more direct access to our entrance and still allow restriction to their back area up here.
This is the request with photos if anybody wants to look at.
Was this out to bid already or?
The original job with a new fence has been bid.
Right, but
This one, I'm reviewing with Dan, sent it to him this morning, and we will go forward with it maybe as early as tomorrow.
And there's some local companies that might be able to do that.
We'll go back to the four we've contacted, and perhaps others, if anybody's aware of any other fencing companies. We had one fencing company refuse to bid because they said they don't do permits. Canal Corp requires a work permit. So different companies have different appetites for this work.
That's part of the reason the cost is because the permitting process, they gotta go through with the Canal Corp.
Motion?
I think Mr. Chairman is asking for this to be done because we're gonna need to go back to Canal Corp to talk about some site access issues, which I believe we'll talk about later. So there is a little bit of additional elements here that we'll talk
Need a
about.
motion on it?
Yes,
I'll do it.
good second. Brian? Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Staff report.
Okay, staff report. I'm gonna try not to be redundant with things we've talked about or things that are still on the agenda. At the end of my
And please remember without names.
Yes, without names. And I will, at the end, talk about our pipeline of projects, which actually is quite exciting right now. Since our last board meeting, I have attended the AR mixer at Adirondack Winery, one of our projects, and that was a very well attended event. Then on May 24th and May 25th, Juan and I attended the New York State Economic Development Council annual meeting in Cooperstown, which was excellent. As far as my highlights, and maybe one of us had Chuck Schumer spoke. It's kind of interesting to see him in person. Of course, advocating economic issues in New York State. I then went to an industry association's update panel. I then attended a cannabis industry panel, which is fascinating and very applicable to some of the applications we're currently seeing. Then, of course, there was the awards banquet, and there are people here that have been doing this for 30 years, and so there was some wonderful recognition for their contributions to the cause. And then at the very end, I attended the workforce housing panel, which was moderated by Jim Siplon, and Libby Clark, who's an attorney with Pinocchio Construction, was one of the panels. So that was a very good panel. And I don't know, Juan, if you add
No,
from your
just
experience.
real quick, just the housing's on everybody's mind. Great educational panels. We've kind of divide and conquer for a couple of days we were there. I've been starting to just pick a random topic once I run into other IDAs. I had the topic for this conference, I used clawbacks. They were a human and a common sense approach as the other IDAs is approach to ending clawbacks. And I had a great dinner with the St. Lawrence County CEO and IDA board chair who's been there since the 80s as the chair. Very great group. Dinner was a mess. We had a warm ship cocktails at 9 p.m. and then a steak by Jack Links at about 9:25 p.m.
With a very hangry crowd.
Very angry crowd. Wonderful event.
Yeah, well attended, and everybody from the state was there. It's really
Nice to know.
okay. We'll continue on. June 5th, I met with a potential applicant from cannabis. We'll see what happens there. Also on June 5th, Dave and I attended the Village of Fort Edward board meeting on behalf of the Canal Side Sewer and Water Project. On June 6th, I met with a local realtor after my presentation to the Southern Adirondack Realtors, and I was interested in learning more about what the IDA can do for commercial projects. So that was a very good contact, and hopefully more to come from that. Then on June 6th, Dave and Ally and I met with the town of Lake George to discuss IDA initiatives, met with Dan Baruch and Dennis Dickinson. And I think when we walked to the room, they were a little leery of the IDA world, and when we left, they were appreciative of what we do. So I think that was a very beneficial meeting.
What was that?
But the assessor wasn't there.
But the assessor wasn't there. Dan Bruce and Dennis Dickinson. Anything to add to that meeting, the outcome?
No, that was great. It was good meeting. I just think it's good to meet with her and get our message out.
Yeah, we'll do more of those meetings. June 7th, that was the Lavella bi-weekly meeting that Dan talked about on, actually the day after, Dan and I and Bob Holmes were going to review Jessica Leakers from Lake Champlain, Lake Shore Regional Planning Board. We had a review of some of the DOD reports that Dan reported on. On June 8th, I also had lunch with 4 representatives of the local bank, and again, spreading the word. Very appreciative. On June 8th, we had the Warren Washington Strategic Economic Alliance at the EDC office, and the theme continues to be workforce housing and the messaging and now the pursuit of some solutions. On the 8th, I also met with an applicant. We'll talk about that momentarily, so we'll put that on hold. On June 9th, had a telephone meeting with a local business owner looking to develop workforce housing in Greenwich and could be submitting an application fairly soon. Then on June 13th, I gave a tour, Dan and Dave and I, of a party interested in a large portion of land at the Airport Industrial Park. In the process of gathering information. And obviously, if things continue to work in a favorable way, we'll be talking more about this in the future. Then on June 13th, attended the 3-chamber mixer at Sagamore, which was very well attended by Lake George, Bolt Landing, and Adirondack Region Chamber of Commerce. On the 15th, attended the EDC Warren County Forum titled "Who is Going to Do the Work?" And they brought an expert from Boston. One of our very interesting messages is that with all the work out there, we don't have enough people. As you pointed out, we have 3 groups that can help with workforce related issues. We have natives, we have legal immigrants, and we have undocumented immigrants. And while it's a very political issue about dealing with the undocumented immigrants, you pointed out they could be part of our workforce solution. So it's very interesting to hear that pragmatic view outside the political realm, but in the workforce realm. And then on June 15th, we met with Black Dog to talk about our website. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. And then finally, on June 15th in the evening, we had the Fort William Henry Carriage House opening, which was well attended, and again, an IDA project. Unfortunately, we did not get any recognition, but there were a lot of happy people.
Really?
Yeah, there's.
Even their bank didn't get recognition.
Yeah, Glens Falls National was financing a big sign outside, but we did not. And we're going to talk about maybe us in our contracts suggesting that they need to put signs to the IDA and perhaps a little bit.
But she talks about us a lot.
She talks about us a lot and in a very favorable way. Yeah. So anyway, something for us to work on to make sure people talk about what we do. That's it for my report, unless there are any questions.
Who are the 4 banks?
I should not talk about that.
Oh, okay, can't talk about it, don't.
No, there were 4 representatives from one bank.
You can talk about the banks and just, you should not talk about our customers.
Okay, so for the bankers, this one was Berkshire. And we actually met them at the Adirondack Winery when they had the Adirondack Chamber Mixer. And when I told them about all the things that we do, they asked if they could have lunch and learn a little bit more.
And when you were at Cooperstown, did you actually make it to the Order of the Arrow?
Is that where the Hall of Fame is, or where's it?
That was towards right down at the headwaters of the Susquehanna River and the
No, we did not
at the
get
end of
there.
Lake Street.
We did not get there. Next time.
Big arrow every year, you
year.
say it right down there. That's where they used to have the meetings. So they chased them, Clinton chased them right down. Okay. All
Maybe next time.
right. No,
They go there every year apparently. It's a very popular spot. So next year, one, I will go to that. Yeah, by the way, if anybody wants to see the annual meeting report, this is it. I can pass it around again. Very well attended and a lot of good information. Okay, last thing I forgot to mention. Let's talk about our pipeline. Our pipeline is very, very rich. We just received physically an application and check today. We knew it was coming. It was in the works. We contemplated it, including it in today's meeting, but decided to take a little bit more time. They came back and said they were going to need more time. And so we said, well, we shouldn't rush it on our end. So now that we've received the application check, I will be working on a funding statement. We'll be notifying the municipalities according to our UTEP rules. And this will be on the agenda for July meeting just for acceptance. And assuming everything goes well, we'll then propose for approval at the August board meeting. The applicant is Native Development. They have the property at the industrial park in Queensbury. Current Sheet Labels is currently one of their major tenants. And they have landed a 10-year lease agreement with a company called Hooves Strong, a subsidiary of a company called Specialty Sales. And what they do is they specialize in hooves treatment to prevent diseases that hinder the health of cattle, particularly cows in milk production. And so this will be a company that will be servicing Washington County and the whole Northeast. It's a company that started in 1999, started in California, and they've worked their way west, Idaho, Wisconsin, Texas, and now they're coming to the East Coast in Queensbury. And they'll look for that facility to provide equipment for the hooves treatment and the chemicals which they'll be supplying locally. They're looking to for a 25,000 square foot building, and this Native Development is going to do for them. The price tag of the project is $3.6 million. It appears to be a very favorable project, but obviously the more details will come out when we do the finance statement.
Can I ask you a question about the, our first place over by the airport? Every time I come to this Washington County meeting, I come across by the airport and I go by that piece of junk that still hasn't fixed up their property. How are we going? It enters our property.
Yeah, the zoning issue, you're talking about at the southern end,
Right across from the airport.
phase one, right?
Yeah, phase one.
I'll let Mr. Chairman talk about that because that's an issue with the county, countywide. It's not just our park.
No, it's more with that, but we had, when we put phase one up, we did not put any covenants in there. So we have no, well, we do have covenants, but we don't have any covenants based on care of the property. We fixed that in phase two. Problem is that because we have no interest in that property anymore, we can't say anything.
You
If
can
would
say,
like-
oh, we want to, don't have to do it.
You can contact Kingsbury Code Enforcement
Yeah,
because they're responsible for it,
yeah,
which
let's
we
do
have
it.
done.
Let's go.
Oh,
It only goes. So clarification on where you went with due to our new procedures, UTEP, whatever. So in this instance, you're gonna talk to the supervisor of that municipality and
Yeah, all tax jurisdictions, what we do, we'll draft up the finding statement and send it out even before we accept the application. So the taxing jurisdictions can be fully informed. And then they'll have two opportunities to provide feedback, both at our meeting for accepting the application and then the meeting considering the approval of the application. And so this is all part of the new rules where there's.
but I think that's important that we hit the
Absolutely.
ground running, doing what we said we were trying to do. And they have an understanding that's how it's gonna work from now on.
Correct, correct. And for this, I forgot to mention, I believe the number is 25 jobs.
Take care.
So
hey, Mike, nice seeing you.
You think we're in good hands, huh? You just leave us now.
I never noticed you were that tall until that yellow hair.
It's the reflection,
All right.
right?
Yeah.
Reflection. Thanks, guys. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks,
Take
Mike.
care.
So, okay, good.
Okay.
You all set?
That's good now. Okay, so that's the application we just received. We have 3 applications underway. I won't reveal identity, but they'll be very interesting and substantial applications. We have additional 7 companies expressing interest in applications that are committing. And we have additional 13 that are exploring applications. And we have 18 that are inactive. Either they decide not to pursue or we've made it clear that they don't qualify. So the pipeline is strong for the second half of the year as expected. More to come. Any questions?
Yeah, why can't we talk about that at the meeting?
Because they haven't formally applied yet. They've called and asked questions, and once we receive the application, then we'll typically talk about it.
Is that because we're on
Well,
the world
A
television?
little bit of their protecting their identity,
Why?
protecting their identity until they say that it's a go. Because a lot of these people haven't made a go. Of the 18 that are inactive right now, some of these were go and then decide not to go.
Okay.
So
For confidentiality reasons, they don't want people knowing, maybe they're renting someplace. Maybe they are being acquired by someone or they're acquiring someone else. You know, you don't want publicity out there like the company we're working with. That wants to buy land and potentially get a fairly good sized pilot. You know, they're saying that, I don't want this out yet. I'm not ready to talk about this. You could injure my business.
Chuck, can you tell us how many are on IDA parkland and how many are on like purchase land outside the park?
Of these projects that I've listed, there are maybe 2 that are related to IDA land this time. So majority of these are not on IDA land.
Any other questions? Moving on. How about the unfinished business, New Leaf and website, they sort of wrap together?
Yeah, so
New Leaf, Jeff, I'm sorry.
yeah, New Leaf, as you might recall, and Mark, just so you know, when we drove here, we passed the Airport Industrial Park Phase 2. There was a solar project there. We've been discussing solar field with this company for, oh my gosh, 8 months now. And they were unfortunately surprised by a ruling from the Army Corps of Engineers that land could not be used for solar. There are some legal routes that could be pursued to try to challenge, but it would take a long time, a lot of money. They have come back, New Leaf, back to us and asked, could they lease other land at the Airport Industrial Park? We said yes, we're waiting for the response. I pinged them over the weekend. I have not heard back, so it's still a pending situation as far as what New Leaf is going to do and their interest in the airport. That, Kira?
No.
That's it on New Leaf. And then the website update, we met with Black Dog on Thursday. They are rolling hard now. They showed us example pages. We provided feedback. They're going to tweak a few things. And Ally and I have the action to provide them some additional information. So we're rolling with that. That's it. Unless there are any questions.
Bridge, as we have talked about before, the bridge was up for replacement on the tip by federal tip. And as part of that, if we've done it by ourselves and the lead agency on it, our share would have been 20%. And working with the county to get Marchicelli funds, that local share reduces to 5%. So as of Friday, the full board has approved moving forward for the county to have the lead agency help reduction. Part of it is the administration of it. The cash flow will be cash flowing through Washington County also. So we don't have to worry about going out for bonds, at least on the bridge, to cover the funds. So that's taken care of. We will 5%. The 5% will be approximately $100,000. And the MOU we're talking about, which I hope we'd had a couple things more nailed out today, is that in exchange for the bridge, the county will do the administration and the cash flowing of the project within that. So that's an even swap for it.
That's the maybe bridge is there,
That's a maybe bridge.
just so everybody understands, because,
It is a bridge, but it's a maybe bridge.
right, it's the temporary bridges there, we're trading.
Yeah,
it's
Bailey
getting
Bridge.
to the county for another project.
For it.
It's gotta be replaced. It's very substantial. I got an issue with that. That bridge is, that bridge won't last.
Well, it will until the end of the summer, maybe.
There is a long story behind that.
It maybe will.
While we're in a position to get the bridge replaced, because it will have to be replaced in the next 10 years. You might as well do it when we get the funding. So that's been approved. The other part of the MOU is we'll be responsible for 5%. And as part of what we're in agreement with, we have to make sure that, I talked to Alan, I think you're in agreement with that, is that we put 5% up and make that deposit at the county. So when they have funds, they can pay it out of there. And it also makes me feel a little bit better because then people will be wondering, can the IDA still afford to give us this money? So it just good faith. think Roger, for some reason, misreading this, but we'll get that straightened out.
So that's gonna get forwarded to the county, because the county's going to film all damn thing, so.
No, so give it down. Ally gives two choices, pay as you go or put the money up front. I feel we should come more up, put the money up front.
That's already done. The only way it would change would be sometimes there's change orders, so the 5% changes, but that's because we get more Marcia selling money too for the change. orders.
We hope the 5%.
It's all good.
We hope it goes down.
It never goes down.
So
Like
it
it goes
is,
down as our account.
it is unclear when the bridge could be, construction of the bridge could take place. The submission of the application going into Marchicelli and federal contracts have to be signed before any work can take place. We understand it could be from 2 months to 9 months before that approval takes place. So that's what we're looking at. So right now, the best guess is that construction will not take place until somewhere around 2025 or 2026. So that's still be known. So, but we still have to do some work on that. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is potential acquisition of property to provide another access way out. So we'll talk about that in executive session. In terms of that, so we'll see what those in terms of MOU. And I dropped you a couple asking for authorization to sign that until I get it out for people to read and review. Karen is blessed doing it. So that's what stands on that. So that's the parameters about it. But as AFGDC, Guns Falls Transportation Council says, if you're not a county, you cannot do this paperwork. You'll fail at it. So that's why we need someone to do it, and the county's going to do it. So that's it. Next is new business. You got any new business to bring up?
I have a sidebar business to bring up. You probably got your notes. The newspaper, the Post-Star, is our legal paper. That's what we put things. You saw what they're changing, right? Well, it's snuck by everybody. The third day I finally saw it. They're going to print on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Right.
But you get delivery by mail. So how are they going to guarantee that things that should be in on Saturday are going to get there Saturday if you're going by mail? So I don't trust the mail to do anything.
If I remember by law, my law says we have taken every opportunity to get that posted. We met our dates, chatted to the publisher. What they do from there,
But that's not going to help us if what we need to have in the paper on a certain day doesn't get there. We need,
it'd be on the newsstands,
no, it won't.
Well, we
print way on newsstands.
So
Yeah,
from our opinion on that is that New York State law has not updated itself New York State hasn't updated to print to digital newspapers yet. So until the statute is amended, we are bound by the terms of the statute. We need to follow that. So what happens is when we get, and they also for the last public hearing we did, they modified their timeframes, and we were scooting around trying to, begging and pleading to put it in, even though we were 3 hours late or something. But the what we'll need to do is we'll need to abide by those timeframes. So it may be that, we've got to plan a couple days in advance to do that. The way we submit to the Post-Star is we submit it electronically to them.
Of course.
So we submit it electronically and then we get verification. So we have their new end of date timeframes, but we're gonna have to work within those parameters until the state law, either amends itself or there's some sort of ABO opinion that allows us for digital print. I mean, we still put it out on the website and it gets emailed to both counties and things like that. But as far as that requirement for publication, we're still bound by that. And that's going to be the same for all municipal entities until the law changes.
We're bound by that, but they're not. Because when you say I'm going to deliver by mail, you can't guarantee
Yeah, but it's
that
the
the
date it's
Saturday
published.
paper is
I
gonna be
think it
there.
goes by the published date though.
It's a
Because that's
published
what's in
date.
the, that's what's in the affidavit, the Istanbul is.
It's the
As long as it
published
doesn't
date.
hurt us, that's all.
It's
I'm-
like-
It's the
those
published
info.
date. It's not delivery
Right,
to
it's
the
not delivery
person.
date, it's published date,
Or,
but-
yeah, and our timeframes for mailing, because we are required to mail them to the taxing jurisdictions per the law.
Okay, so,
And that is we email that the same time we submit to the newspaper for publication. So we mail that at the same time, and then we email packages and we try to do it, because you can't rely on whether the mail is gonna get there.
but,
timely
but,
either.
but you also get confused, and I did for 13 years, by the term published date. The published date, you know, oh, I gotta put it in on the 6th, okay, fine. But the actual published date, what they count as the published date, is when the reader gets that. If he writes a story for us, our organization, and he wants it published, it's not published until the public reads it.
Right, so what we do is we
That's my
say,
date.
right, we tell them, well, we can't determine what, I'm not sure I'm following, but what we say is if we want something published on June 25th,
Yes.
we say we would like it published on June 25th.
And if 25th is a date in which the paper goes down to Schenectady and gets printed, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that the public is gonna see it on the 25th. Not if they go in their mail, there's no guarantee.
Right,
but
so
as
we're
long as
only
it's
gonna be able to
available, like
pick a
in
date
Stewart, say
where
it's
they
available at
publish.
Stewart's on the 25th, that still works even if you didn't get it in the mail.
If it gets us to us.
No, but they will deliver them to places where they're selling them now.
You are not knowing the paper that I do. Okay, let's see what happens.
Well, I'd like to go off of that, is there a reason to stay with them and not go to like the Chronicle?
Well, I don't think that
Chronicle
helps
will only
her,
do it on one day.
yeah,
But they're headed to one day pretty quick too, so is there?
I think you're right.
Right, so is there a point where it's this price and this price, should we be looking? That's what I want
That's
to
for
know.
you. As much, if we could put most of our stuff out on that one date and
Yeah.
and try to go to the Chronicle.
well, you have to amend your official newspaper.
Well,
information.
or do it at the beginning of the year.
I think having 3 days a week is better than having 1 day.
Yeah, but
You
it's
can't
said that
guarantee it's gonna be there.
You have 3 days
for another week.
on the
Okay.
schedule.
And you remember I said this,
I'll go with Kara's legal interpretation of public date.
that's not the legal publication. The date on it is not, it's the publication has to do with when the public actually sees it. So if
Well, the public actually sees it is when it comes off the press and someone sees it.
I was there for 13 years fighting that for $14 million of business. So I'm just telling you what I know. Do what you want to do.
Well, we're only gonna be selecting days when they are printing.
Okay,
And that's how,
Right.
we coordinate with the legals department at the Post Star, and we email them and, we say we would like this to be published on whatever, and we're only gonna be able to select publication dates. We're not gonna be able to pick a
I was
different
gonna
date.
say,
And like some of the weekly papers, like say it's coming out on June 25th, say that's the date.
yeah,
The paper might actually be out on the 22nd or the 23rd, but it will be in the June 25th published paper.
okay.
So, but I think in this instance, and I'm serious, it looks to me like they're all going to weekly papers.
I mean,
And
at
I
some
don't
point,
know
the
where
state's
we-
gonna
I don't know
probably
where
have to
we
amend the
gain.
law, but
3 days a week, just one day out of the week, I don't see where we gain. If it's Wednesday, if, say the date's Thursday and it's Tuesday or Saturday, it might just well be just
There's no
Thursday.
love for the Chronicle, but you're absolutely right.
It feels like we ought to give them a chance. Let's see how the new process works and then we can circle
I
back.
gave you 13 years of experience, you can have it.
So,
It's going downhill in a hurry, but
That's,
It's outdated.
okay,
But every single Lee Enterprises paper is going to 3 days a week.
I'm sorry?
Every single Lee Enterprises paper is going to 3 days a week.
I understand that, I know that.
and then the one.
Got nothing to do with the price of onions.
Hold on. We're gonna do a quick education moment.
you want me to-
You and you have time constraints, right?
I can do it next month.
I do, but I'm still okay.
Okay. Quick educational moment.
Okay, well, today, the chairman has asked me to prepare some educational moments going forward, so if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or raise, then send an email and we can put a list together and work on these. The ABO has indicated that they would like there to be educational topics at the meeting, so we're keeping current on current topics. So today I know we have a new member, so we will discuss our favorite ABO. And the ABO is our governing body, is our governing agency. And so the ABO stands
Let's let her
for
make a presentation.
Authority Budget Office. They were created in 2009 when the Public Authorities Reform Act was adopted. And so they are a New York State agency, and their responsibility is to make public authorities more accountable and transparent across the state. So they're governing all of the IDAs, all of the CDCs, EDCs, LDCs, tobacco securitization corporations, and a variety of other entities that fall under the public authorities law. So also they govern like the transportation down in New York City. So we are under the same guidelines as they are. So sometimes they don't really fit so well for, it's not user friendly for all because we have the same responsibilities. So what they do is we have to report to them on an annual basis through a Paris reporting system that Ally is extremely familiar with. And that information is presented to you during the annual meeting in a full report. That information is then posted to the ABO website, as it is for all other agencies that are governed by the ABO. And so all that information is public information. It's a collecting of information for our current projects, our finances, the properties that we own, you as board members, your attendance at meetings. All of our policies and procedures are recognized in that report. So it's a full report of all the things that we are doing and have in place for the ABO. And the ABO we also have to report to the Comptroller's Office in some ways, but our ABO compliance is what you'll hear us talk a lot about when we are doing projects and adopting policies, because the law is being amended oftentimes. So last year in the governor's budget, there were a couple amendments that came through regarding notice and how notices, for instance, last year in the budget, it became that we had to notify the school districts and not only the superintendent, but the business director or whatever that position is. So there's been amendments from time to time, and we keep up with them, and then we update our policies accordingly. Do you want me to stop there? I was gonna do board structure, but we can wait for another day.
They've got to leave by 5:50.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for my first educational moment. Thank you.
That's another thing, sometimes you're gonna look around the room and see that we're all oblivious to whatever the hell you're talking about. That's the thing we need transparency.
Okay.
No matter what it is, I think.
Well, send me some topics and I'll put them together for you.
Pretty much every meeting.
Yeah, there's always something you can pick out that you'll be able to teach us. Let's move on.
Mark and Chuck have to leave for a meeting, so I would like to have a motion on executive session to discuss negotiations leading to potential acquisition or disposition of property.
Second.
Yes. Yep, disposition.
Second by Dan. We will be adjourning out of executive session.